folks. Whoops, I didn't mean to abruptly cut that off, but that's okay. Let me make sure. This is Red Band, by the way. It is March 1st, 2023. I'm just going to real quick make sure I've got good audio here. If you just give me 3 seconds, or if someone can let me know in the chat, that would work too. Otherwise, I will quickly check on the stream. Let's see if I can get this figured out. Someone can let me know in the chat, that would work. Cool, too. Looks good. Okay. So if you want to get a hold of me, you can find me on Twitter at RedBenTrader. No spaces, no anything. If it doesn't look like that, it's not me. Then if you want to learn more about using an algo like I do to make your trading more systematic, you can talk to my coach, Simon. And you can request a 5-day free pass to the trading room where I trade futures by giving Simon an email, trade letter N wordperform@gmail.com. I don't know if we're opening up the room for new members or not. It was closed for February because we had a couple new members, and it's up to Simon whether or not he wants to take on new clients. So you can always email him. You know, if he knows there's interest, that helps. But I mean, we're a small group. We're not really looking to get all that big. But it is a great group to work with if you trade futures and want to get more consistent. So we are looking at NQ. And this is my version of the algo, but it's thinned down quite a bit. So normally, let me take a peek here and I'll show you. So normally what we'd be looking at if we have, oh, I see what's going on. Where is, I don't have it here. Okay, I see, because I'm on an auxiliary window. Okay, so I guess I can't pull it up here. But mine looks a little bit different than Simon's. Is what I was going to show you. Yeah, it'll take me a while to load it. I didn't realize I didn't have his loaded. But I've basically taken the trade and perform algo, kept the things that I use regularly, and then have thinned out some of the stuff that I'm not using as much. What you'll see on here is that if you've been watching my streams for a long time, you'll see some basically critical information missing. The number one thing that's missing is the triangles, the little yellow and red triangles, or on Simon's, I believe it's orange and red triangles. I do use the triangles, but sometimes it gets a little bit too busy to see everything. So I'm experimenting, I guess, with sharing just pieces of the algo rather than the entire thing, because if you don't know what any of these mean, the more you have, like here where you have like almost everything on, it's too much to look at. Whereas if at least you only have like 5 rather than 10, it makes things possible to follow. So hopefully we can follow along easier by only looking at the ones that you really need to analyze the market. And then I've added one of the execution signals, which is the stars. But the reason I'm adding it is not actually one reason I'm adding it is so that we can find trades and entries, and everyone can see when those entries are triggered. But the primary reason I added it to this layout was I was introduced to a new idea where you use the stars to determine where support and resistance needs to be, and there's some pretty neat patterns that are quite tradable with pretty good edge if you can take those stars out. So for instance, when it's bearish, I'll just get right into it. And again, it's a Renko chart. I've explained how to read it and all that in other videos. I don't want to take half an hour of every video to explain all the signals, but if you look at all the ones with the stars, so here we have stars on up bars. There's 2 of them, and then there's one yellow star which is on a down bar. All the down bars have wicks on the top, and all the up bars have wicks on the bottom. So if I take the high of this star bar and draw a line across it, um, if the buyers can produce a break through that line, the potential is there for the buyers to shift momentum. Now, whether or not we should trade that break, if it happens, is going to depend on two things. The number one thing is your higher time frame. You need to make sure that you're not trading into an area of resistance on a higher time frame, because that's gonna cause problems. So you'd wanna have your at least your candlestick chart on another what's it called, another screen or whatever, so that you can kind of know, like here's my ES, like am I nearing an area that I expect there to be resistance? Would I not want to be buying here for something that maybe I won't see on this super zoomed in Renko chart? Otherwise, you can use higher time frame Renko charts too. And then the second thing that's going to tell you whether or not, for me anyway, that's going to tell me whether or not I can trade it is going to be whether or not there is one of these little blue orbs, the little transparent circles. See them here on the bottom. It's kind of hard to see when there's a flag on it too, but sometimes it'll be on ones without flags, and sometimes it'll be on the apexes, the ones with the flags here. Like here's one on a flag that's to the bearish side. Here's one on the flag that's to the bearish side, and then here's one that didn't get a flag, but it got the orb. So those little orbs, I'm finding, are critical bars on every time frame. Where they show up can tell me instantly whether or not I have a trade opportunity or not. So, for instance, if we break over this green line and an orb shows up, that bar or the next bar can be a good long entry. So on the opposite side, we have stars here, right? So if I take this, for instance, and draw it across, typically, oh, sorry, it's the last, it's not the most recent, it's this one. This one would be more meaningful on the way up, or sorry, on the, hold on. Last and lowest. Yeah, I think it would have to go through both, so it would be this one. So, okay, so if we drew a line here, you've got two in a row here, and so that creates some confusion. But if we just looked at the low of this one, you could technically use the low of this one too. You would want the bar that breaks it, or the bar prior to it, to have one of those yellow orbs on it to tell you that you have the chance for a severe breakdown. Now, this one, you can see there's no yellow orb, there's no bars with yellow orbs that interact with this low. But if instead, let me see here, where's my, if instead, oh, sorry about the fighter planes, I forget people aren't used to hearing that, but I live near an Air Force base, so it's a regular occurrence here. So we're going to erase the lines. They're loud, I know. Okay, so if I take this one, on the other hand, we just barely interacted with that low on that bearish bar with an orb, right? So technically, if this star wasn't here, if this one here did not exist, that would be a continuation short. I can show you other spots where that worked, whereas here you can see it did not. We ran into support, and they bought it, right? And then because of the fact that it's so far from the previous apex here, it makes technically, if you entered here, you'd have to put your stop behind that bar, right? And so you would have been stopped out if you took that trade into the low. But where you really want it to show up would have been like this one, for instance. Would have been a better way if this had a wick that went up and hit those. That would have been better, because then it'd be very clear that your resistance is up here, and the system would be telling you to enter down here, and that's a pretty significant risk, right? So I shouldn't say it's better, but it's more clear that it maybe wasn't such a good idea to short into the hole because you're so far from the nearby apex. The nearby resistance is way up here. Whereas if I had a star up like this, right, and then you draw your line, and if we would have broken down, oops, with this bar or this bar after it. This one was not actually, or this one because it retraced into it, but preferably one of these or the ones before it. If one of those would have had the yellow orb, you had really good risk reward on the breakdown. Unfortunately, the yellow orb showed up late here, right? And it actually interacted with this one, which didn't get the star, but still has a lot of the same. It didn't quite reach the required like technicals on the profile during this bar to achieve a star, but a lot of the parts of being a star is actually present here. It just didn't quite get one. So that and that's just part of being systematic is if your system says you need a star here and then you need to take it out with an orb, when there's no star, then you don't take this trade, right? You just miss it. So that and then you have to decide if that happens over and over again. What's the benefits of maybe opening up to taking any bar, for instance, or maybe only a bar with a different algo on it. But see, the problem is here you've got the down star here, and so you can see that none of these got the blue orb, right? So you knew not to be a buyer, and that's really helpful. Whereas if you started to open up to say I'm going to take any bar that breaks out, well, then there's no star here. So then how do you know not to buy this, right? So you got to draw the line somewhere. It's part of being systematic is just making decisions, and those decisions should be based on objective measures from going back and looking at what happens when I make this decision in the past. Obviously, past performance is not indicative of future results, but for me personally, it's all I have. So while it might not be indicative of future results, I would personally much rather have my trading decisions based on trying to, if not replicate, at least estimate. Had I taken this, had I seen this same situation in the past, if it worked in the past very often, I'd rather personally put my money on that happening again. But it doesn't mean it's going to. It's just that, like I said, it's all I have to make decisions. So that's why I use the backtest to create the signals, and I also use the backtest to filter out signals. So like I mentioned before, in the trade and perform room, they're using a lot of signals that I don't use, and then I have some signals that they don't use because our trading style is different. Simon's a little more aggressive than me, and so he may be willing to take some trades that I'm not going to take, especially on like reversals. And then I do a lot more momentum trading than Simon does, and so I have signals in here that tell me when, for instance, I can start opening up to trade in trending markets to become a little bit more aggressive. Whereas since Simon's not doing that, he doesn't need those signals on his chart. So my signals definitely do look different, and I've changed some of the colors and stuff like that even. But they do look different if you're used to seeing them in the room. But a lot of them are based on the same ideas. They've maybe just been tweaked a little bit or just filtered out entirely because I just don't use them anymore. And then, like I said, I've got some of my own ideas, like the dots, like these little orbs that we're talking about today, that can help me make like on-the-fly decisions. Now, if we were trending, and I would say in this case we're actually not trending. Okay, if we were trending with momentum, right? If we had some speed in this market and it was going one direction, I could start looking at opportunities to enter on almost any yellow orb. But when that stops working, see how like this yellow orb got beat and now this yellow orb got, when I say beat, I mean like we got over it, we got behind it. And so this one clearly has gotten beat, right? This one they're trying to beat it right now. The price is advertised above it, but they haven't like closed a bar and continued higher. So I like here, this one was not, in my opinion, beat. It was tested and rejected, right? Because the close of that bar is down here, and the yellow line is where all the volume is inside the bar, the POC of the bar. Obviously, there's volume in the wick too, but most of it was where that little yellow line is. And so if I can get that yellow line above this green line here on a bullish bar, chances are there are some stuck shorts. But until that happens, the tilt of the market is down because of these trap buyers. Because the same exact thing happened up there, like I showed before. And if you drew the support and even this star here, either one of those supports, once we got, see how this yellow line couldn't get underneath the green line, and so they got a retrace, right? But then they gave it up right there. It was clearly taken here, right? So had this one gotten an orb, that would have been a sell. Then this one did get an orb, but my risk reward would, I'd have to put my stop way up here, and it's for futures that's just too much for me. But the direction was clear at that point. It was obviously going lower. It was just a matter of where can I put my stop, and here it gave me an opportunity to put it there. If I got in there, I would not be able to confidently put my stop right behind it because I don't have any more information on why the market shouldn't trade up there. But now that we've gotten the star here, there could have been opportunities for continuation trades on the way down had we gotten another star there, but we didn't. So it just didn't set up. And then, like I said, it looks like momentum is kind of slowing, right? And you can see on the accumulated volume waves down here that we consolidated, and then we had one big push to the low, but that volume, if you look, it was not as high as the previous one. The previous leg down was bigger. So we call this a divergent volume wave or Weiss wave. And that can create opportunities for markets to reverse. It does not necessarily have to reverse. It can sometimes just consolidate, but it's a really good time to stop momentum trading when you see that. It doesn't mean it has. You shouldn't necessarily look for a reversal, but you might want to stop shorting in the hole if they're putting in divergent waves to the low. But again, I can watch these orbs and I can say, okay, if the buyers can't get over bars with yellow orbs, they're not making any progress, right? They did beat this one though. See that? They beat it right there. So in other words, if this low, if I just mark off that entire area, if that low holds and they defend it, buyers defend that low, they can trade under it, but if they defend it and they can't close under it with the yellow bar, with the yellow line under it, it could absolutely reverse. But the trade opportunity, unless I can target this level with the trade that sets up down here, the better trade opportunity actually happens after we trade above 11,985, let's say. That's where the momentum starts to come into to the buy side. And I could get like more than just a scalp. And in my opinion, there's no real reason to scalp off the low in the opposite direction. You're just not going to be right often enough. My coach, Simon, has a pretty strong feeling that your best opportunities do come off the lows. And so if you know what creates a reversal, it makes sense to be aggressive to catch that reversal. I am less inclined to do it because while it might be true that if you know what to look for and you catch enough reversals, your win rate's going to be strong enough and your risk reward's going to be huge, so it makes up for all the times you're wrong. The problem with that is if you're not a really, really skilled trader and you're not good at holding positions when you're right, it won't pay for it. And so at this point in my development, I'm not confident enough to say that I think the low is in. I'm going to put big size on this reversal trade, and I'm going to hold it, and I'm not going to take profit because I have evidence that it's going to work. Even though, like here, I have evidence, right, that this guy traded above the orb, so there's a chance that they could defend, right? But I'm not going to put big size on this trade if I was going to take this trade, and then if they set it up, let's say they set up long, right? It hasn't, it does not look like they're defending it, right? But if they suddenly defend here, right, and I took the trade, I would be inclined personally to take profits here. And my coach, if he got set up here, would say, this trade is worth 50 to 100 points. There's no way I'm taking 10 points on it. Pay me or stop me. And objectively, he's correct. If I was a computer program, that would be if I was building a computer program, that's the way I'd make a trade. But psychologically, when you hold the trade for 44 points and you plan on taking profits at 50 points, and then it comes back and stops you out for a 23-point loss or whatever, I'm not going to be able to continue to trade on process when that happens, especially after you get stopped out if it runs 100 points and you miss it. So for me, I'm just not there yet. So it doesn't mean it's wrong. It's just not the trade that I'm going to pile in on, even though I know that objectively it's the right move. But until I have more confidence in those reversals working, and like I said, I know that they're good, but they sometimes fail, right? Nothing's 100%. And if those trades failing cause you to tilt, especially when you miss the actual move that comes right after it that doesn't set up for you, if that causes you to tilt away like 5R, well, then it doesn't make sense to take the 3-to-1 risk reward trades. If they're going to tilt you, if you're going to lose 5R, if you're going to like take 5 losses in a row by trading off process because your 3R trade failed, don't take the 3R trade. Make it a 1R trade and just maybe hold a runner. But like, and then you have to decide, if I do that, if I take profit at 10 points and hold 1 runner rather than keeping 3 contracts on for 50 points, how often do I have to be right about this reversal to make that a good trade to even take? And that takes, you have to do the work. You've got to go back and actually look at it and say, like, how reliable is this setup? If it's ultra reliable, then you should take it every single time. But if it's only right 55% of the time, and you're now going to get maybe an average 1.5 risk reward because you're not going to hold it for 50 points, and when it's wrong, you're going to lose 20. It might no longer be a trade that you should be taking, and it might be optimal just to skip it. And so for me, my research of my own trading has shown that I'm better off skipping the trade off the low and waiting for this confirmation and then taking the momentum breakout than I am trying to get the low here and here and then having it stop me out the second time, and then it runs, I miss it, and I tilt. So until I can handle that without making poor decisions, the only solution that I can find right now is just watch those trades and take metrics on them, but don't actually trade them until my consistency improves, right? And it can be frustrating, like watching the rest of the room take a trade that works really well that I saw but consciously chose not to take because I didn't think I could handle the stop. It is frustrating. That can tilt you too, right? So you have to be, you just have to know yourself. You have to know what is harder to deal with. Is it harder to deal with watching, 15 people in a room high-fiving and you being left as the only one who didn't take the trade? Or is it more tilting to be, taking stop after stop after stop and then quitting and then seeing them all high-fiving because they got the trade but you didn't take it the third time or whatever? And yeah, for me it wasn't that hard of a decision at this point. So But that's why I won't take them if they set up down here. Yeah. Um, it would have to be absolutely perfect for me to try to take that reversal now, because there's just been way too many days where we do this kind of thing where we here. Let me show you from back here. This is where I was getting killed before. Not today. Today I did fine. I didn't trade much today, but I guess it didn't really do it today. But sometimes it'll drop and then it'll hang out there for a while, like kind of like this. Like it'll, if you're thinking bearish at this point, um, and then you're like, oh, you know what, it might bounce, and you start like grabbing like this, and then you take this, but you hold it for 50 points, so you miss your exit, and then it rolls over again, and then it's like, oh, okay, I'm going to take this one, but I don't want to take profits because what if it goes 50 points? Well, this time it does. So let's say maybe this time you said, okay, well, maybe I'll only take 10 points because I've taken 2 stops. Well, now you're not even break even, because you got 1 R for this trade and you lost 2 on these. So it's like, yeah. Whereas this one was the one that actually went 100 points, So if you keep taking them until you're right, and you're not wrong very often, it's totally fine to take the reversals. My metrics show that I trade better when I leave them for others. When I let other people attack those lows, and instead I focus on where can I short, well, this one I wouldn't have taken, but that's the kind of spot that I'd want to be shorting, would be here. But this time I wouldn't, because we've gotten over the support zone. They got above it, so I would personally skip this one too. But like I said before, I'm just not the type. I don't like taking stops. I know it's part of the game, right? But like, I like having because here I'll show you. Like, I like having my win rate stay. My win rate matters to me, and you can see what the difference is. So, okay, so this morning, I was trading pretty well, and I was 3 for 3 doing what I was supposed to do, and then I opened up on my other. I opened up a what's it called? One of the Apex evaluations, and was like trying some like reversals and other things, and my win rate sucked. Now, in the past, when I had a win rate of 44%, this would be like negative 2K, right? Whereas now I can if I start losing, I can just change what I am willing to take and only take the good stuff, and then make most of those losses back. This was down 800, I think, and then I recovered basically all of it other than fees. But yeah, this is abnormal for me. If I've got a 40% win rate, I'm probably not trading very well. So that's and then the solution to that, when you're not trading very well, you need to have a plan for how to deal with that. And my plan for how to deal with that is I stop taking the aggressive trades, particularly in the direction that is continually stopping me out. So if I was trying to long and none of the longs are working, I'm gonna switch to short only, and I'm only gonna look for the highest odds trades, and until I have evidence that they should no longer be taken. So like, here's my evidence that I should no longer be shorting, right? And so I skip this. Yes, I missed 10 points, but more often than not, this is actually going to break out, right? Because it's a reversal setup that I'm just skipping. When it printed star here, this was the long, right? And it's not wrong to take. It's just I don't have enough evidence yet to know that it's going to work often enough on the very first try to risk an R taking it. That's really the problem. If you wait for the next bar and it's bullish, your opportunities increase significantly. But you can see that even then, you don't necessarily like just because you got a star followed by another bar, right? Star followed by another bar, it doesn't mean it's going to reverse. You need all the other pieces to be there too. So getting over this orb, pulling back and giving me a star, that's good. Better would be getting another bullish bar right away. And once I got that second bullish bar right away, then I just have to look and say, well, am I fighting into resistance? Is there any reason I should be buying this right now? And if you're not, then it's probably a pretty good place to go for the reversal. Like if it was here, for instance. But now I've actually got resistance up here, and so you'd have to ask yourself like, what are my chances of actually breaking all the way through this? Because that's what I'd want to. The only reason I would be aggressive and try to take the long here is if I thought I could break way up here. Well, I've got a clear resistance here. Like this should slow buyers down, even if they do turn it here. So it's just more reason to think that if I'm, let's say I'm 60% sure it's going to work, right? The bullish is going to work, but that 60% is that it'll get here to 82, and that anything beyond that is probably going to require some sort of a pullback first. Well, if that's kind of what your read is, then maybe just take the long here, because all the times that it doesn't get there, it fails, right? Every time it fails, it doesn't even get there. It just does like this, right? And then you lose nothing. And so the few times that it does this, you will still lose. But all the times that area ends up being a breakout point, you make money. And a lot of the stops are taken out. And if I would have taken profits here anyway, because I'm not confident enough, right? And I wouldn't have held for 100 points anyway, had I taken the reversal trade, then just take this one, wait for it to shift and take the continuation trade. That's how I see it. Is it optimal for everybody to do that? No. Right? Some people will get tilted to all hell if they miss the reversal and then take the continuation trade and it fails. Like, if that's going to cause you problems, then don't do that, That's why they say that, that's what makes a market, is we have different traders trading differently. And if I did get that long set up there, I would then look to the left and I would say, well, here's my last star down, right? And we were not able to get a blue orb above it. See, there's no orb here, no orb here, no little blue orb. So they did not develop above it. And you can actually see the yellow line. It only got above it on a pink bar, which doesn't usually have very much volume. And then as soon as they got it any higher, they immediately rejected. So that is our resistance. So then you'd have to say, how low do I have to get it? Like, does it have to be here to get 1-to-1? Does it have to be here to get 1-to-1? Like, you have to make sure you have risk reward on the trade, but then the entry would be here, and my target would be in there. Anywhere in here would be fine. I've also got a bunch of levels hidden from other charts. So if I wanted to look at the bigger time frames, I would notice that there was an old POC here, like a naked point of control, but we've traded through it, so it's probably done acting as support and resistance. But look how they're still struggling to trade over it with any volume. As soon as they get up there, they reject it. So that level looks like resistance as well, right? Which would be another reason not to take the reversal trade, because it's like, well, I'm trading right into higher time frame resistance from like last Friday. So that would be a reason not to take it. And then once you got over it, if you came back in and bounced off of it, that might be a perfect place to take the continuation trade. So knowing those higher time frame areas and levels it's really important. But when you have this much information on the chart, it's just hard to look at everything at once, right? So instead, what I'll do is I'll hide it and I'll analyze just this tiny little piece, and I'll say, okay, do I have any reason not to take this trade? It's like, oh, yep, don't buy, because I've got resistance here, right? So that's exactly how I'll usually go about making decisions, at least in the beginning of the day. Once you've traded for an hour in the day, you pretty much learn where those spots are. Even if you turn it off, you're going to remember, most likely, that there's like a level there. But yeah, the more things that get on the chart, honestly, the harder it is just to see the rotations and to figure out, like, should I even be trading at all? Because I would this is the kind of price action that I don't do very well with, where it's like it's not really decisively one direction or the other, but it's also not clearly balancing. It's not like it's just going like this, right? It's instead it looks to me like it was consolidating in a bearish trend, which is the purple back here, and then they maybe got another extension, might have trapped some sellers down here because they put an orb at the very bottom, and then they're retracing back into probably where all the volume was from here, if I had to guess. Yeah, so that's where all the volume was, and there's exactly where they are, so that makes sense. So that level is going to be resistance until broken, and we're going to have to push volume above that, and I kind of doubt we've done that. No, we have not. So you can see up here, see the volume profile. There's barely all this volume, all these volume spikes are well below where all the volume was before. Obviously price is, but sometimes volume isn't. So you need to know both. Price is just the advertisement. Volume tells you whether or not someone actually cared. So knowing it was advertised at this price is good, but it doesn't mean that buyers there are like here, like way up here, right? Price got advertised up there, and clearly there were some trades, but what happens next when it comes to volume? Like if we just mark off like that area again. Oh, it's hard to see because it's really blue, but what you'll see, if you can see it, here, I can zoom in. So see this volume spike? It's blue. It's kind of, I have it hidden sort of for a reason so it doesn't get in the way. But, and then there's this like low volume node right here. Right? So that whole area, that brown, that grayed out area here, that low volume node from this consolidation, that low volume node is basically like a support resistance zone now. And when they came up and advertised price above it, the only people interested in trading were the sellers. There were no longer any buyers once they got over that low volume node. So what happens? Well, buyers give up, and it goes not only back to support, but under support. And then they came back up to that low volume node, and there were still sellers waiting there. So, and they traded through aggressively, which is what the star is saying, which if it's bearish is going to produce another rotation down. Well, this time they ran into support, and the support there is there because of this trader here. It got an orb and it got volume above this guy here, this important seller here. We got volume to go above it. So when they tried to pull back, they ran into sellers who are now buyers. They were sellers on the way down. They saw this and they're like, I don't want to be a seller anymore. Get me out of this trade. And you get the reversal. So like every single reversal setup there is based on those concepts. It's just a question of now, once that's happened, how confident do I need to be that these sellers are now going to be buyers over here? And do I have a way to get into this trade, to trigger me into this trade and get paid enough to risk the times when it doesn't work? And so the trade setup is great. The problem here is the structure doesn't offer you much opportunity unless you get the breakout. If you can get the breakout, things can start moving. But without the breakout of this level here, without that breakout, it just chunks around in here and rolls over. And you don't want to be buying the rips into resistance, right? So the only thing that would change my mind about that is if we had an aggressive trader at the low, like an X, like if we had this bar way down here, I'd be like, this low is safe, right? In other words, since this was an aggressive seller, If buyers can get volume up here above that, note it has a yellow orb as well. If buyers can get up there, chances are like this. Oh, they might actually do it. They got to get another bar up here that's not pink and get the VPOC. Oops, above. How the hell do I? Above this. So the VPOC's above it. Now they need to close a bar and have it not be pink. If they close it pink, it's not bad. It's just it's just not enough information for me to be confident. Because they're at resistance now, and a pink bar would suggest that sellers are pulling their orders from the order book, and we need to see buyers respond to that before we really want to be a buyer. Sellers pulling orders shows something, but it's if there's no follow through, you don't really want to take part there. When the higher time frame's bearish, which at this point it is. But this guy right here is trying to defend his position. Okay, so if you're looking at this and you see it, you're like resistance, it's bearish trend, then it makes sense to look for aggressive opportunities to join the trend. But because of this and this, I know not to do that. Right? I've got a blue orb at the bottom indicating some absorption. I've also got these arrows here. They aren't bullish until you get over them and hold. So like there's another one here. This one would have been, like I said, was a trade entry signal because you have an aggressive trader, a star, on top of an arrow. See how that arrow is not bullish by itself. But if that area is defended, then this is bullish. It's not a buy signal. Like here, not a buy signal. But had this area been defended here, then that would have been a buy signal. Okay, so let's see if this area let's see if this guy holds. It's this one. Down to about there. Oh, interesting. So they should have gotten an orb here because of that orb. If it was going to continue, we should see an orb show up right here, and there's not one. So that blue orb needs to show up. It can show up one bar late, just based on how it's built, but usually it's right away. It can also disappear one bar later if the next bar closes bearish. So you really need to know when you see the blue dot show up. See, it's not always going to disappear if it closes bearish, but it's possible. So you have to. You really want to. What you really want to see is blue orb, bullish bar. Right there is where you know, like relatively confident at that point that this level is now an okay place to put your stop under. But the problem is it's bearish. So buying this into resistance is not so good. So instead you buy the dip, right? And it was a valid signal. I just wasn't confident enough to take it off the low. But it did set up. It did set up. But I'm probably making it more complicated than it needs to be just because yeah, when it sets up into the end of the day at the low after a big trend day down, as a reversal, like I'm just not excited about giving back an okay day. You know, if I was up like 3K, I'd take this every time. You know, because it's a good trade. It's just I just wasn't confident that it was going to work this time, and I was very underconfident that it would break through this. And I just didn't think that expectancy of getting me back up to that resistance was good enough to pay for all the times that it does just get crushed. So, but the entry was definitely on the start, in my opinion. You could have waited for the plus. or if there's a triangle on that bar, which I think there is. Yeah, on the other algo, there's a triangle on it, so you could have gotten star triangle up and been fine there, but there was no indication that it was going to go any higher than resistance. So this one has not gotten a yellow orb either, which is interesting. You would expect the X with the star to get a yellow orb. The fact that they're not getting, like this one, see, these usually get the yellow orb, and this one did not. So their sellers are definitely out of sync. They're not pressing, so they're aggressive. The dots, the orbs show me, how can I explain this without giving away proprietary information? It's like a timing, like if you know how a engine works, it's like a combustion engine in a car. It back in the day, like you'd have to like time. Well, I guess you still have to do it, I suppose. But I know with old cars for sure. I guess you still have timing. You have to time the spark plugs for like how long. I'm not going to get into it, but like you have to make it optimal, to make it function optimally. You have to time those spark plugs for when they go off, when they spark, to make your engine work optimally. And so the little orbs are showing me not which bar gets the aggression, but where they are getting a pivot in aggression. So when they align with order flow that's aggressive, which is the stars, for instance, then those are going to be more they're going to be more consistent and more optimal entries. If you just have the dot, the orb, but no star, it suggests that there wasn't a lot of bullish order flow, so not a lot of aggression into the bid. Into the, here would be into the bid to the downside, right? They didn't sell aggressively into the bid, but you had a pivot of aggression where we used to be seeing buyers get aggressive, and now like we aren't. And so when they align, it should kind of make sense, and this bar becomes very important. That range becomes very important to the market, to the structure of the market, because you've got the aggressive traders aligning with that aggression pivot. So you can do something like this and say, well, if sellers can defend this bar, this range, and get volume down here, it's probably going to take out the low. Whereas when you have the aggressive signal here, but no orb, well, now I can say, well, buyers can get aggressive up here, and they can shift the aggression with the orb that's blue. It's probably an entry. Okay, so I know that's confusing, but that's just the way they work. And after the market closes, I'll take a quick break, and then I'm going to review from the past couple days what these setups look like, and then we're going to go through the day, and I'm going to point out which ones I took and which ones I didn't. But remember, there are a lot of different setups. I'm just sharing the ones that I've been using recently, some of the ones that I developed, along with like basically just filtering some of the trading perform entries with additional data. So I will show you that. And then we can take a look at the other algo 2 with all the signals, and I can show you where some of like the classic trading perform entries were, because there were a couple really good ones today that had nothing to do with the signals that I did. They're like just purely the trading perform algo itself actually performed great today, but I already know how that works, and so I'm not doing this as like a marketing thing. I'm just sharing what I'm doing, almost like a journal entry. So if you want to know how the trading perform algo did, you just watch follow Simon, you know, and or ask for a 5-day free pass to the room and check it out. But um, I'm not doing this necessarily to try to get people to like buy that program. I just want to show you, once you have that program, or once I had that program, I was able to customize it and produce trade signals that worked for me. And so I want to document how that's going, because for my own interest, basically, just to try to become better, but also just to show other people that there are many ways to trade, and what matters is that you have a systematic way to make decisions. It actually doesn't matter so much what trade setups you're using. The logic is the same for every single one. So we only have 4 minutes left in the day. I'm definitely not going to take another trade. A little irritating being down like $23 after commissions, but in the one account. But the other one, and the other, I just didn't take. I only took 3 trades this morning, and they all worked. So, and then when I have like something like that happen where I have like 100% win rate, I usually just shut it down. I'm just like, you know what, that's fine. I did good. And I just came back and wanted to try some new ideas. And like I said, I didn't do it very well. And then I had to recover those losses by going back to what I know works. And so I'll show you where I made mistakes. But you learn from as long as you learn from those mistakes, it's all right. You know, as long as you have a system and a way to protect yourself and to know when something's not working and what to do about it, then this is how you learn. Is you try something, and if it doesn't work, then that's great learning material, and you can start to study, like, why did this work yesterday but not today? What was different, right? That even though past performance is not indicative of future results, that's I personally use past performance. That's just the way I do it. Not saying you should, but that is how I do it. So it looks like we're just stuck here in this old point of control from Friday. I think it's Friday. So yeah, so it's probably not. It's just going to close. It's going to get pinned, if I had to guess. But interestingly, we printed an arrow here, which basically means like, because so when there's an arrow, right? But there's no dot on that bar. Just like here, there's no dot. See how the dot was misaligned here? It makes it easier for buyers to break through this when they have an arrow that's not oriented correctly. It's not, because the arrow is a momentum signal, and it's the yellow one is a down arrow, right? A bearish one. But the momentum signal is showing up a bar after the aggressive pivot. Like, this was the aggressive pivot, and then momentum was signaled here. And so it's not super surprising that we got a reversal there. And so I'm kind of curious if that's a pattern that continues, if you get the arrow 1 bar or maybe even 2 bars too late. I don't think it happens very often. Like, usually it's like arrow with the dot or arrow then the dot. And in that case, I think it's like here, it did not orient with the dot, but there is no dot here yet. So we may be printing the dot like here or here. Like, so if the arrow's early, it might just make the dot stronger. But I'm curious to know if the dot came early and the arrow is late. It suggests that momentum is being put in. Like, they shouldn't have to. If you get a pivot in aggression, you shouldn't have to follow that up with a lot of work. It should be relatively, you should see the dot, and then basically like a purple bar is perfect, but it really shouldn't have anything on it. It shouldn't, maybe a plus, but that's about it. It could have a little plus like this, but that's about it. It shouldn't really have any other signals. Like this one, there's no orb, but here, orb plus, that's fine. We'll talk about the plus bars too, because there's some really good
techniques with that also. But like this actually plus dot is if it's bullish, that will lead to continuation. But I'm curious about the arrows and to see what happens when it's arrow and then dot or dot and then arrow. Like I'm not sure, but I've got some guesses of what might happen. So we can look into that too. But the two I have seen for sure with the pluses is if you get a plus and then a pink bar, and then the very next bar has a dot on it on the top, a yellow dot. It's a pretty good reversal signal. It's just a scalp, but it's a pretty good reversal signal. And then plus immediately followed by a dot, so no pink bar in between. It's an okay reversal signal, but it seems like this one, where it's plus and then immediately another dot, it has to be trending bullish for that to work. So I might, rather than using it as a trade entry, I might use it as like a signal, like not a trigger, but a signal to start getting aggressive to the bull side. That like once I see plus dot and then assuming the next bar closes bullish, because remember sometimes that dot's going to disappear if the pivot, because it's a pivot, right? So it's saying like there were bears and now there's bulls, but if the bears put in aggression here, the dot on the very next bar before the very next bar closes, that dot can disappear. It doesn't have to, but it can. So you really can't be confident that the signal is in until the next bar closes. But oftentimes it will stay. It's just there's a few conditions. You have to have aggression before. So here you didn't. If this would have been the star, and then you get a dot, and then you get a star down, that dot's going to disappear because it didn't. It tried to pivot and it failed. So the dot indicates an attempt to pivot, and if it continues the next bar higher, it's a confirmation. But you can see that you often do have dots that are immediately beat. So just beating a dot doesn't make it disappear. It's not like it repaints just because it got beat. But there are conditions where one bar later, the bar does require that the pivot continues for one bar, but price doesn't have to. So aggression needs to continue up, but price doesn't have to. So there'll be a lot of situations where it's dot and then star down, like blue dot, star down, and that is a scalp to the downside. When this prints and the dot stayed there, it's a great opportunity to take a short if it's bearish. It's not necessarily a reversal sign to flip bearish in a bullish environment. But if I already knew it was bearish and I get a blue dot that's immediately followed by a sign of aggression, yeah, I'm gonna short it as long as I don't think that there's buyers, basically trapped sellers down here. If there were trapped sellers down here like this, well, now I don't want to be shorting, which I already explained. So let's see. That was the close. Okay, let me take a quick break, grab something to drink, and I'm going to come back and look. I'm going to go look at some of these trade setups that have already worked, and then we're going to go through from the last couple of days, and then we're going to go through the day and find them. So give me 2 minutes, and I will be right back.
Okay, I'm back. So, now something I might have mentioned but didn't probably explain is these signals are going to work on any time frame. The good ones should work on any time frame, and they should work to the bull side and to the bear side. One might be um, better than the other one, but that's going to usually depend on direction of the higher time frames. So um, it will probably be easier to see it on this simplified version of my algo rather than using the more complex one. I can still hide the levels and stuff, but there know that there are additional signals that you can't see here, and we can when they matter I can bring them up, but just to avoid people getting like dizzied by all the signals, there already are so many that let's just leave it how it is, and then I can demonstrate some other stuff with the other ones afterwards. So okay, so the first, let me think where to start. I don't know whether or not I should start with the harder one or start with the easier one, but let's start with the, let's see, if we go back to today, which one showed up first? Okay, let's start with an easy one. Well, I've got at least three I want to show you, and then we're gonna review where they worked, where they didn't, and how that might change how I trade them. So the first one I'm going to talk about is these. There's barely any pullbacks anywhere, so I don't know if we're gonna see many of these setups from the session here. Where am I here? Yeah, yesterday. I'm not trying to cheat and like cherry pick. I just want to make sure we actually get some pullbacks. See, the problem here is we're getting all of this kind of movement here, where you have like, it's like, see the what's it called, the zigzag. We're getting like 100-point rotation. See that all the way down, and it's like 100 points. That the voodoo range this week on NQ is 51. Okay, so that would, which is like a normal rotation, would be one voodoo range to three voodoo ranges if it's really trending. So this is almost two voodoo ranges without any pullback, right? That is intense and not something that I'm usually able to trade, but there is one setup or maybe two that do catch those, but that you need to already have a sense of which direction you're trading generally. So I want to find an area to, the best way to show you some of these momentum trades are not necessarily when the market's going straight up or straight down. It's when it's making like 0.5 VR pullbacks, like 50% pullbacks during the move. So for instance, if this is the high, wait, where does this all start? This is actually good. See these little pullbacks? That's what you want. So see, if you look at the zigzag, like that's around a VR, and then that's less than a VR, right? The pullbacks are less than 51 this week. Pullback almost half of 51. This is perfect. Perfect, right? 30, like 20 to 30 point pullbacks. The problem is that now up here, like I don't even have to look at this, right? If I just look at the zigzag, I can see up here that we went down 27 for the what looks like a pretty good pullback from 66.50, right? That's less than a 50% pullback. It's a natural pullback during a trend. But then our next move up was only to 25.75, and then we pulled back 23, which is still a pretty good pullback for a regular trend. But then we only went up 29.50. So even though we're like going up more, the problem is that it's nothing like this initial move. And then if you look back, you had an impulse move here, 18 down, 57, and then this one was an impulse move. No, this was a V, 57 to 63. See that? So that's a V. But if you look at what actually happened during this price action, it was still bullish, but it consolidated, and that's why this is the range of the movement from rotation to rotation. Oops, and that's the volume accumulated from wave to wave. So
whereas this is the volume aggression. Uh, so when it's doing this, you have opportunities to join the trend, right? And then when it's doing this, you have opportunities to join the trend. These pullbacks, but you'd have to know that the trend was bullish, right? That's just part of the deal. If you don't know that if the trend is bullish or bearish, you're not going to be able to. You shouldn't be trading momentum. So a simple way to know that the trend is not bullish for me is if I see these purple backgrounds. How come that's still there? It must be on a different time frame. Interesting. Okay. Apologies for the lines. I don't know what time frame that's from. It's showing up from a different chart. So let's see if I can figure it out. Hold on real quick. Erase. Erase. That didn't do it. Oh, maybe it did. I must have been drawing profiles on a different one. I didn't realize they would show up here. I didn't think they do, but it is. But I guess we. Oops. Oh boy. I hit a button that it's gonna take. This is gonna take a second. I told to erase a bunch of profiles, and I guess I had a lot of them on there. So yeah, for the first setup, I guess I might as well just start somewhere because I don't want to take forever looking for the perfect spot. But there we go. We'll just start to the right of it. So once it's not, see how it's purple here? That purple is a warning to me that the bears, the sellers, have put in some momentum, and generally, and then the pink is a sign that buyers are putting in momentum. Generally, what you're gonna watch for, it's not a trade signal, but in general, when it's pink, I want to watch for pink bars and see what happens to the pink bars. So here, the pink bar you got an extension, so that's bullish, right? But now when it's pink and I see a pink bar and they get under it, that's a problem, right? For the buyers. So purple, if it was, here's the purple bar before it, it got an extension, still bearish, right? Here, purple, with purple background, what happened? They got beat, not bearish anymore, okay? So it's too late usually to actually use as a trade signal. But if I just, in general, know that purple bars that surround these or are inside of this purple background, if we can trade above them, that I no longer can take any bearish trades. Unless we reclaim it. So in other words, to be bearish, once we see this, to be bearish, I need to get under this bar. And so now with volume, we need to get volume underneath that bar. So now I know I'm only looking for bullish trades. It's probably bullish. I just need an entry, right? So here's the first thing you can look for. I don't know if it sets up here or not, but this is the general idea. I can show it to you in the bearish way too. What we're looking for is a blue orb at the low of a bar, like this star bar has a blue orb. That's a good sign, and it's a sign for buyers, and it's a sign that low should get defended if it's still bullish. So if we get a pullback into this bar's range with the blue dot, particularly if we trade just slightly under the blue dot, but then the very next bar is bullish, it's probably a pretty good trade entry, particularly if it's a purple bar before the bullish bar. So here you have a purple bar followed by a bullish bar, okay? And it's trading to the right of a blue orb bar, right? So if I had a bullish tilt at that bar, I would already know that I'm looking for buys, right? And so any opportunity to trade in this bar's range would be a good entry. So for instance, here, right? So the like I said before, the purple the purple background having a purple bar and getting above it, I already know, okay, I'm looking for buyers, looking for buy opportunities. And I've got a blue orb, and I pulled back into that blue orb's range, that bar's range, with a purple bar, and the very next bar is bullish. So already here, it's like, yep, I probably want to be a buyer. Where do I want to be a buyer? In this range. That opportunity comes here on the pullback. The hard part about this entry is that you don't necessarily get an entry signal on the bar that you're getting in. You have to be able to read the market and just know that you're looking for a bull move. Now, the one thing we did have from way back when on a different time frame is I had a VPOC, a composite micro composite VPOC, and it was acting as resistance, and then they tried to use it as support, and then it acted as resistance. So if it's bearish, what happens next is a lower high. Well, so basically, if I can break above this, I could also know that I'm bullish, and that there's another trade entry, in fact, that would be a blue orb on this bar or on the next bar that breaks through this high that would give me an entry as well. But the first one is once you know you're trending, if you have a blue orb and you pull back into there and you get a trade entry like a purple bar followed by a bullish bar, or any other of the like the 2-bar combos, like with the triangles, which I don't have turned on right now, but that's okay. Anything like that is going to start to work. Also, pink bar setups are going to start to work, as well as divergent setups, which aren't on this chart, but if you're in the trading perform room, you would know what I'm talking about. So there is the blue orb that gets me into the trade with the second trade setup, and I guess I might as well just introduce it right now since I've already talked about it. So if you think it's bullish, if you have a reason to think that the trend is bullish, which we do here, right? Blue orbs are getting defended, and you've had a star to the downside anywhere. So here or here, you can draw a line from the high of that star bar, and if it is broken by a bar with a blue dot, or if the bar before it had a blue dot, and maybe even if the bar after it, if it's early in the rotation like this, but for sure when it's the bar that breaks it like this, it's a really good momentum trade. It works great when that bar also has a star, but it doesn't need to have a star. But it's way better when it does, because now that low should get defended, so you can put your stop right underneath there. Whereas if it didn't have a star, you'd probably have to put your stop loss underneath this wick, right? So, but once we've broken it like this, now this star bar here should not be, it should be, the sellers who sold here should now be buyers. So we really should not close a bar down here anymore. We might test it, but we shouldn't close a bar down there. If we do, it's probably bearish. Okay, but the entry is right there on that star because it's got a blue dot. So that would be a long entry. These can continue all the way back, sometimes like significantly 50 points plus, at least one VR, and it's generally an impulse move. But if you look to the left and you have another star above you, sometimes it gets stuck there. So let's see. I don't remember what happens here. It does. So see how it got stuck there because of the second star? So the only reason not to take this trade is if you see that there's a second yellow star just above you and you won't have risk reward to enter. Like let's say I was on here. I might not enter this trade until I broke through this one because I know it's likely to act as resistance. But if it was just this one I was dealing with, it would be a really good entry. You could still take it, but once you saw this, you'd probably want to, once you saw this start to reject, you'd probably want to exit, like for just a scratch or whatever. Because if it doesn't just blow through there with like a pink bar, it's probably done. But let's see. Sometimes they just pull back and test and then keep going. So let's see what happens. But the fact that this was bearish, right, and then only here did it start showing up bullish, makes me very concerned here. And then another key that I guess I can talk about, but it's unrelated. This is something that Simon taught me. When you have two purple bars consecutively, and the first one has one of these little flags on it, what we call an apex, the purple things, or this, or if these two bars were up here, and the top one had a flag, for the market to actually turn bullish, we're going to need to break above that or trap an aggressive seller lower than that so they can explode through it. But this is generally a very bearish sign when you have two purple bars at the beginning of a rotation and you're able to print another bearish bar, it's usually a lower high, and the next high is also usually a lower high. So what happens here is we get 2 consecutive purple bars, and the top one is an apex, right? It also has an orb, which makes it even more powerful, because whenever those orbs align with the apexes, you have like the sellers are timed optimally. So even though you had this aggressive buyer here, they ran into resistance, and a well-timed seller was able to start the move down, and buyers, purple says buyers pulled orders. So not only did buyers pull orders here, but they pulled orders for another 24 ticks after that immediately. So whoever was buying here aggressively appears to have given up, is what that basically says. Just like up here and up here when you had the double, anybody who was buying here aggressively with this dot appears to have given up. So the dot followed, the blue dot followed by 2 purple bars is going to be a problem for buyers, right? Having a blue dot up here, and when it's beat by purple, you're going to get momentum. And not surprisingly, most of the time when you get this, you're going to get a yellow arrow on one of these bars, because momentum will also shift. And so all of those things together, second purple bar with an arrow after beating a blue orb, that's going to be a great short. So here you got a yellow orb, you've got purple with the arrow, purple right after it. The only thing you have to do is break this blue orb, and you're good to go. This sell is better than this sell because you're already underneath the blue orb. See that? And this one's already been defended once, so chances are it's not going to get defended again. So let's see if it gets defended. It might. It does. Perfect. So they look very bearish. They get back to the blue orb, and what do? Purple bar, star. This is a long, right? It's the same exact setup as I started talking about initially, where you have a blue orb, right? You get a lift, you get a pullback into the range of that blue orb that ends in a purple bar, and the very next bar is bullish, right? And what I said is it's especially good if you can get under that blue orb with just a purple bar. Well, that's exactly what they did here. They shot up. Bears, sellers came in the market hard with the momentum shift and an aggressive momentum shift, aggression momentum, which is the dot, and then 2 purple bars, meaning buyers pulled all their orders. Where did they pull it to? Right to that last blue orb, the last place where buyers started to get aggressive and sellers stopped getting aggressive. And what did it produce? Another blue orb, as well as a bullish bar, as well as another star, as well as a blue arrow, meaning that momentum is now shifting bullish, right? So that little move might have scared me out of my initial trade, but I'm immediately getting back in here. You do not want to be bearish if you see 2 purple bars immediately followed by a blue dot, or 2 purple bars immediately followed by a star up. That would be a sign that sellers are like bluffing, basically. So, and we can find other areas like that, but the inverse of that would be multiple pink bars that gets beat by bearish aggression, like this, right? So multiple pink bars in a row, you get a yellow dot or orb below it. That's probably going to release lower. Multiple purple bars, you get a blue orb that breaks through it or shows up above it. It's probably bullish. So here I expect a breakout and probably a pink bar. Nope, no pink bar. Ah, well, that explains it. No pink bar, no breakout. Let's see. Oh, they're wiggling. Star. No pink bar. They really do need the pink bar to break out of this resistance, but you can see that they're kind of hanging out here. Oh, that's right. I remember now. We looked at this with the zigzag, so they're gonna consolidate here and then break out. So my stop on this trade has to go like a point underneath this orb, and because it was an entry based on the orb before it getting defended, I really I could take this trade entry here, purple bar, bullish bar above an orb in the range of the orb bar. That would be an okay bullish entry, but I'm not going to take the entry that happens below this orb because this orb was produced by a defense of another blue orb. So I don't expect them to defend it if they go under there, which is why I can put my stop there. At this point, you don't know whether or not it's going to go down there or not, and they certainly could sweep you out. That's possible, right? But it's a aggressive momentum trade trying to get the breakout. If you want to wait for the breakout, that's okay too. So here they get a purple bar. They don't see how they don't. I can extend the line. They don't get underneath it, and they print another purple bar. Or I'm sorry, another blue orb, and that's certainly a good sign. Uh-oh, that's not a good sign. So X's with an orb on it, in general, are pretty strong signals. They work better with the trend, and you can see that there's a general bearish trend here. So I wouldn't be shocked to see this stop us out. That would be my expectation, and it does. And it stops you out right there. So it's a it's a small loss. Tried to get it to extend, and it didn't. And so now the question is do they defend this level? For me personally, I'm not going to take another entry here with that setup because I've already seen a blue dot defend. But what we will see here is you have a star with a blue dot, and we're beating that star with a yellow orb. So generally, you're going to get an extension here, just like you did when you beat this one with the blue orb. It's the one before it, so it's not quite as strong, but it usually does extend lower. Even though this time I know it doesn't. That would be my expectation, is that usually this will break down. Now this time it didn't, probably because most of the volume is probably below us. Let's see. Where's the volume situated? Oh no, the volume's actually above us. Interesting. So yeah, I would definitely have thought at this point that we're going to break down. But like I said, we looked at it before, and so I know we don't. And so the only thing I can say here is that even though I probably am not taking this, it technically is still valid. It's just lower odds because you've already broken down underneath blue dots. But if you can get above this one, it can be explosive because everybody knows that when aggressive traders get taken out, it's probably going to break down. When aggressive buyers get taken out like this is aggressive buyer, he got taken out. Everybody expects it to go lower. But if you look at the yellow line, as soon as they got volume underneath that line, the buyers immediately responded and pushed us above the volume point of control of this whole consolidation. So it's not a shock. Oh, did I draw that right? Did I start it in the right place? Did they shift it? It doesn't matter. So this whole consolidation, most of the volume was right here, and we've now broken back above it. It just looks like we had to trap some more shorts. A really easy way to think about this, for those who are totally lost, is to say this. You can avoid a lot of stops when you're looking for a reversal. Because remember, it was bearish when we're looking for a buy, right? The easiest way to avoid a lot of stops, identify what an aggressive buyer looks like. Get him stopped out, in other words, get him off sides, but then see buyers respond and defend him. So this one was never stopped out, right? This one was never stopped out until now. So had we traded under this star and then come back with a star, this star is much stronger. But because we didn't quite, as far as I can tell, we didn't quite trade under him, or maybe by a tick. Nope, not at all. Perfect, I think, touch. They never traded under him. They never swept up the stops that were sitting. That liquidity back there was never taken. So once they got under those guys and this one, but really it's this one. Once they got under him, then it's only bearish if they can't defend it. But when they defend it, this is actually a pretty good entry. So you can't just say that whenever you have a plus followed by a star that it's bullish. But I will say that when I've got plus followed by a dot or an orb, that is much more consistently a reversal. It's just you need to have stopped out a buyer first. So stop out a buyer, get some sort of aggressive push down, and then preferably with divergence, and then get a lift. Okay, and I know that's confusing, but it's not meant to be. It's just that you need to know what an aggressive buyer looks like on the footprint, which is what these stars are based off of, and I need to get under him and clean up the liquidity down there before they can continue this reversal. So if this is the low, then I need to trap some shorts before I get any continuation. So even though, like I said, I probably would have taken this one because it was valid, when it doesn't break out right away, I'm basically out of that for a scratch, right? And it does technically set up again here, but it doesn't break out, right? And now we can draw a line across here, and we can say I have a new star, and I need a blue dot to break out through that. I need to break out through that line with a blue orb bar, or the bar right before the breakout needed to have the blue orb. Otherwise, I don't think we have enough aggression, right? So here the blue orb is way back here, and that probably means the next bar will not break out. But let's see, maybe the third one will. So they get a pink bar. This is generally a pretty good entry. It's on the, you can see it on Simon's algo or on my other algo. You've got star followed by a pink triangle up. That is usually a very strong entry if you have direction correct. So you can see, let's see if they had a star. They did not. Right here would have been a star triangle down, purple triangle down, but it didn't work because it wasn't bearish anymore. See, with the triangles turned on, star, triangle down and a purple bar, you'd expect that to continue. If it has a plus, it probably has a triangle too. The plus is like a advanced triangle. And so it's the only ones I have showing on this one because they work better than just the triangles, but you can use the triangles as well. And this one would have gotten a triangle. So star, pink bar up with the triangle like this. Star, this is pink bar up with the triangle, and it continues. Once I see this work, this pink bar, like I said, I know you can't see the triangle, but the pink bar had a white triangle. The pink bar had a white triangle and an arrow, right? Once those start working, in other words, they go higher than that, and they don't get stuck. And once the purple bars with the red triangles don't continue lower, purple bar with a triangle doesn't immediately continue lower, I'm pretty confident that I've got my direction right. Okay, and particularly if they had a plus sign on it and they didn't get any continuation. See that? I'm pretty confident there that we're probably going to lift. Because that, and then they put divergence on this bar, which means they basically trapped some sellers at the low, and not surprisingly, you got a blue orb here too. And that's why in this scenario, when you know the direction, plus sign, counter trend plus sign followed by an orb in the right direction, it's usually a pullback you can buy. So I'm pretty sure this breaks out, and it does. See how they were able to produce a second blue orb that broke over this green line? That's my breakout entry. This or the next bar. Doesn't matter which one. Both of them are good. And it can be a huge breakout entry. How huge? Probably to the next apex to the left or the next star to the left. So the next star to the left was here. That's basically the same spot. So that one's done. The next apex to the left would be here. So we can draw a line here. And then the next orb to the left would be here. Okay, so let's see which one acts as resistance, if any. There's the orb to the left. What do we see? A blue orb on it. When you've got the yellow orb on one side and the blue orb directly across from it, like that, in general, as long as you got your direction right, it's probably going to continue. Okay, so both of these orbs were met by an orb in the opposite direction. So, in other words, the aggressive volume to the sell side occurred here, at that level, but then when you came back to that level, they aggressively tilted it bullish. So even though there's no star on this bar here, there's no star on these bars. There's no the footprint didn't show any aggression, but volume did. Volume showed some aggression, right? And so, in other words, they piled on. There might not have been an aggressive trader that like put in a lot of size, but the amalgamation of all the trades, when comparing volume aggression on the sell side to the buy side, it was way stronger to the buy side all of a sudden. Whereas just before that, it was maybe balanced, right? And the last time we were at this level, it was bearish. And so that produces breakouts. So here we had a yellow orb, and at the very next time we tested through it, we got a blue orb. Usually you're gonna break out. You're gonna break through that. At least another bar or two. Okay? If you can't do it, it's probably gonna, I mean, that sounds kind of obvious, but if you don't get the blue orb at that point, you're probably not going to continue higher. So right away. So for instance, here you had a blue orb and a blue orb. If you go to the right and you don't get this yellow orb here, you're probably done. But see how you got it until you got continuation. And they came up and they hit it again with the yellow orb, and they hit it again with the yellow orb. Same exact area. See how they're all clustered there? It's because it's a very important spot. And if you look, if you just continue that on later, more orbs, more orbs, more orbs, more orbs. See that? So the dots are all aligned for a reason. It's just the way that it's built and the way the market works is there are levels that the market cares about. And I'm not talking about like voodoo range levels and stuff like that. I'm just saying like order flow based, when not just because one trader was waiting there to get their order filled, but because it's repeatedly been the point where aggressive volume shifted. So it probably is important for some reason. It doesn't matter why. The point is whoever's in control of that area, as long as they did an aggressive shift there, they're probably going to get an extension. So every time you get an orb that touches the green line in the direction of the trend, you're going to get an extension. Now where it gets tricky is the in the direction of the trend part. Because as you can see, you also got a blue orb here and a blue orb here. And neither one of those got you a very good trade, right? So you can't just say, I have a yellow orb and then a blue orb in the same range. That's unfortunately not going to work. You need to also have evidence that the trend has a reason to go that direction, such as trading above a trapped seller. Here's my trapped seller with the star. I got volume developed above him, right? Once that happens, once I get volume developed above him, it consolidates, right? So if I take the volume of all that consolidation before they broke out, which was, let's just say up to here, what you'll see is that the majority of the volume for that consolidation is way up here, right? Once I get over that, this guy is not only trapped, but all of these guys are now trapped. So what do you get? Usually an expansion in range. Where to? Probably here. If not, higher. If there was an orb up there. See the orb up here? That. And then there's a blue orb right here that got lost. But see how these two line up? This one and this one line up. And this one, you weren't able to align it with the blue. The blue came late, and then they beat it. So watch. This is going to be resistance. I don't know if that works this time, but that's usually how that works. Let's see what happens. We come up to those. So the first one. Well, oh wait. Wait. Did I skip one rotation?
consolidate. Hold on. Where was I? I thought we just. Oh, it must be way over here. Yeah. Okay, I was like, no, that's not right. So first they got stuck there, right? The first time that they went back up, they got stuck at the orb, right? So that one's already been tested. That yellow orb already acted as resistance. See that? It worked beautifully, but it already acted as resistance. So we're just gonna take it off because it's already done what we expected it to do. This one, in a way, already got cleaned up too, right? So we could probably take that one off too because it's already been traded through, right? And then they put another one lower. So the only thing left now above us is this blue orb that got trapped, right? And so look at how they handle that. We developed bullish volume here, right? Got over the sellers, trapping them right there on that blue orb. That's an entry. Where do we go? Right back up here, the apex. Of course, there's going to be stops to hit there, right? So are we going to stop right at that level? No, we're going to get just a little bit further than it. And we're going to put a bunch of volume up there, indicated by the yellow dash, right? The yellow line got pulled all the way up there. And look what they did. They put another yellow orb up there. So what does that mean? Well, it becomes resistance, right? We also had this super late blue orb. That's a problem for buyers. As we saw before, when you do that, they can get stuck. That's where this shaded area came from, right? This guy came really late, and then he got stuck. And remember, that's not an aggressive trader. It's a shift in where aggression, in which direction the majority of aggression is going. So if there's no star up there, it doesn't necessarily have to be a full trend change, but the fact that they aggressively flipped here from being either neutral or bearish to, okay, fine, I'll just buy, it usually means capitulation. Because a lot of those aggressive buyers were the ones who were shorting all the way up here, and they're like, fuck, I'll just give it up. So they give it up, and then somebody comes in with heavy volume after sweeping through these stops, and then all these guys who just capitulated are like, fuck, I'm getting short. Right? And so you get double purple followed by a bear bar. We already talked about that. That's usually a sign that bears, it's hard to do that when it's bullish. Usually when it's bullish, if you get double purple bars like this, purple, purple, it's usually going to be followed by a sign of aggression. Buyers know that they have to defend this, otherwise it's going down, right? So they immediately defend this. It's not always a good place to buy, but if you break through them with a blue orb, it's usually a great time to buy. The problem is like when it's like this. See that? We broke through with a blue orb, but it wasn't a great time to buy because there was resistance above us. So you still have to think about the bigger picture. But if the very top, if at resistance, like here, this one, at resistance was 2 purple bars in a row, right? So if I can break above this with a blue orb, that's going to be a breakout. And we got a blue orb coming into it. It doesn't look like it broke through with the blue orb, but if I went to a higher time frame, this would still count. I know that might seem like cheating, but as long as I've seen the blue orb at the time when it breaks out or just before it, it still counts. Especially when the bar here is pink, because this barely had any volume. So had this bar just been a little bit longer, it would be this bar. But instead, it just ran out of room. It never even retraced that whole range. It just continued. And so the blue orb caused the breakout. But the breakout was actually the next pink bar. So it's a nuance, but it does matter. Okay, so anyway, we trapped them up there. Notice we couldn't get to these trap buyers before. Now these are our new trap buyers. Right here. New trap buyers. And remember, we have an aggressive seller trapped down here. And then there was another one, this star bar and this star bar, that's an X, sorry. This star bar and this star bar were both aggressive sellers that got trapped, right? So normally you're going to see buyers defend that zone,
unless it's really bearish. That first test back in there, they're not just going to give these up. So you're going to see buyers show up probably where all the volume was. So between here and here on the VPOCs of those bars, you're going to get a response in there usually. So they came back to this yellow orb, right, that got that breakout, and buyers defended that. Makes sense. Note here you got plus immediately followed by yellow in the an orb in the opposite direction. It's generally a pretty good scalp with the trend. And here it looks like the trend might be shifting. So if you thought it was bearish from up here, and you're like, hey, that might be a higher high, but it's just a sweep. I'm gonna trap some buyers and take a short. As long as you're willing to take most of your profit 10 or 12 points in, that's a great trade right there. Plus dot other direction, you get at least 10 points most of the time as long as you're trading with the trend. Then notice that dot. My preferred trade, rather than the plus dot, is wait for the dot to completely form and wait for this next bar to be bearish. Then you know that dot's definitely valid and it's not just some random shift. It's like that shift actually worked, right? They shifted volume to the sellers, to the sell side, and they had follow through, right? So now that whole range should be resistance, right? Plus we have this orb acting as resistance because he got trapped. So that way up here on the pullback is a great entry. Not surprisingly, an aggressive trader trades there too, which could have been me. And then you got the sign of aggressive tilt in volume, and you get a huge breakdown, right? So that's my preferred trade is to trade it like that, like I've been showing you. And that is the same exact trade as this or this, right? In the range of the orb, you get down, you test it, and you reject. The only difference with this one is you got the VPOC here, that point of control, the bar. It just barely. No, it didn't. It did not take out the low of the orb. So this would still be definitely valid. If it gets under that, you have to be really careful unless it's purple. I'd prefer it to be a purple bar here, but if the VPOC doesn't get under there, it still is fine. It helps to have an aggressive trader here. Like I said, I don't think I would have taken this unless I would have seen plus dot, then that makes it better. But had I taken this one and taken a scratch, I'm probably going to wait for this to get the breakout. So yeah, I missed 15 points, but I still make 40, you know. And then here, I'm just taking it. I might take plus dot, but usually I'm going to take this one on the pullback. And I can take this with huge size, basically, because my stop goes here. So my stop is like 5 points if I do this right. And usually what I do is I get in right on the VPOC of the orb bar. So look at that. I mean, that's like things of dream. That's a trade. I can't tell you how much money you can make if that's all you do, right? If all you do is sell on this retrace when you know it's bearish and when you know someone's trapped, oh, it's just perfect. So, and you get the star, right? We had no stars to trap up here, but we did have the orb to trap. Not surprisingly, like I said, when you get back to an orb and you defend it, you get another orb in the opposite direction. Makes this even a better trade. This X, I'm not going to go into it too much, but had it had an orb here, a blue orb here, it could have reversed, but it didn't. So it's just like cannon fodder. These buyers are all just wasting money. And if they knew where aggression was, they wouldn't do it. But it's probably people like getting scared out of the short and just pulling sell orders, but then they had no follow through, so it's immediately sellable. What you'll see with the X's is when you get follow through, it can continue most of the time. If you get dot with an X and then another bar, it's usually going to go down. But when it doesn't, it can be big breakouts, right? So, but then when it's X and immediately beat, it's usually going that it's gonna go lower. So here's another example of this. So X followed by another bar. Usually that's bullish, right? It's not a trade entry, but usually it's gonna go a little higher. When it doesn't, like this, and instead that orb gets taken out, especially when there's an orb there. X followed by an orb that gets taken out, bearish, right? Because usually that's a bullish signal. It's not necessarily a trade entry. Okay, so X gets immediately beat by an orb. X had an orb, bullish, right? X gets beaten, but no orb here. So maybe not an entry, right? Plus gets an orb, usually an entry, as long as you're going in the direction of the trend. In this case, I don't think you are. You aren't. It's bearish. So you'd only be beating blue pluses, which I don't see here. X immediately beat, but there's no orb anywhere. So nothing really happens because you need aggression for that to work. X immediately beat, but there's no orb here either. So there's no real great trade there. Although you did trap this orb. So the trade is actually there. This is almost the exact same setup as the one I was just talking about. Orb in the opposite direction, X with no orb, and then go under it. Orb, X, orb in the opposite direction, or go under it, right? It's just a little bit out of order, but it's basically the same trade. Same idea as you've got all these attempted pivots, and eventually you get a winner here. One of them gets taken out. And you can see you got the arrow just as they were breaking down, which is perfect. That's where you want those arrows to show up. Not in that's when they matter. When they show up in chop, it doesn't really matter. But when they show up in those let me see if I can find another one like that. When they show up here at like the big rip and then reverse and trap with an arrow, yeah, that's good. That one I'm kind of surprised didn't work. Big rip. And then what really matters is if you hold that. So if this range is defended, that's the entry. If this range would have gotten defended, that would be the entry. And then if this range is defended on a pullback, that's an entry. That's the easiest way to use it. Here it's like choppy, like you don't really want to worry about them there. But if this range gets defended on a pullback, it'd be an entry. If this range gets defended on a pullback, nope, doesn't get back to there. Oh, wait, right here. There. This range got defended on a pullback, entry, right there. Okay, so if you're looking at a big enough picture, you can use those. All right, so we break down underneath this one, and they get the pivot, and then this is a very late pivot. Look at this one. This yellow is totally out of place. It's not taking anybody out. There was no bulls, no strong bulls over here other than the bar that was right before it. There's no like pivots over here. There's no apexes. There's no stars. There's no X's, nothing like that. It's just one bar, and they needed to pivot aggressively south. And that, if they were increasing in momentum, that doesn't make sense. These bars should show up on the pivots. See that? Even this one's kind of like, why did they have to do that? Well, because they had this guy. It required a shift in energy to the sell side to get over the guys who are trying to defend that. That's why you get it. And when they succeed, it's usually going lower, right? So like here, you're usually going to get a bull orb to break through that. And if it succeeds, it's probably bullish. That's the way to think about that. So, okay. Do I have any plus setups here just so I can be consistent? This one is that a fail? Plus dot, is it bullish? Yes. And it just straight up fails. So you're trading right into resistance, but that would be an example where that little scalp didn't work. Okay, so we got this one as a sell. There's nothing really to trap other than this guy. You'd have to get underneath this low to really keep shorting down here. And so instead, they put an orb in at the bottom with a star. So now that one needs to get beat. But the fact that you have another one right below it makes it harder to trade. So now we'd probably be looking for trades in the opposite direction if you had the chance. What would we want? Well, we'd want a down star to get beat by an orb, but we don't have any down stars. So you could use down orbs, but that's not as good. Here's your down star. You need to get above that with an orb. That's far away. Let's see what they do. Okay, they bring it up here. They try to get over that. Okay, there's my star. So if I can get over this with a blue orb, I can be bullish. Otherwise, I'm going to assume this one's going to get broken. They use this as support, but I don't have an arrow like this here, so I can't really buy that. There's my arrow. It just came in late. Okay, dot. So they're breaking over this bearish star with a blue dot. That's almost always bullish. Very rarely does that not work. And where does it take you? To the next star with the dot, right? It worked exactly how I'd expect. This set up just like at the end of the day, and that was the reason I didn't take that trade, and probably wouldn't take this either. But if you wanted to take it for 10 points, it's fine. Just know that they're probably gonna stall here. It doesn't have to totally reverse. It's gonna have to sit for a second at least. But note they have purple bars, so if the next bar is purple, I would expect them to go lower, just like this, purple, purple. And if you can't get over the double purple bars like this, it's trouble, right? Are we on today? This looks just like today. I can't even tell what day we're on. It's off the screen. Let me see. I guess it doesn't matter, does it? It probably is today. But, okay, let's look. Nope, this is Friday. It's just almost the same. So, purple, purple, no continuation. Something's up, right? It's not super bearish. This one gave us, let me use the arrow. This one gave us the continuation that we'd expect. This one did not, right? So if I thought it was bearish, I don't anymore. Plus, I've got an arrow to the upside acting as support on a pullback twice, right? So either one of these look like a decent pullback to buy, and I should expect that these blue dots get defended. And so if you have purple bar followed by a star or a bullish bar in general that shares the range with this last blue dot, that's usually a pretty good entry. I mean, this one's okay too, but like I said, I might have been a little nervous about this resistance. But now that they've cleared it out, see, the star is what matters. We've cleared that out. So now this one's a much better entry, in my opinion, than this one was. This was fine for a scalp, but I would expect a pullback. And when I got those two purple bars and they can't get any continuation, even if it does consolidate here, I'm expecting it to go higher. So it consolidates with another star. That's kind of unfortunate because now we have to break that with another blue dot. So in real life, I'm probably exiting at break even if I get an opportunity here on the next bar and waiting for a better setup, maybe a little bit lower. Even though I really like it, I don't like having to beat another star. Yeah, and they might not even give me a chance. So let's see. So right there, I'm probably getting out of the trade. Even just because I can be a little bit of a pussy with these. Because even though I know it could still work, I can just get out of the trade and wait for the next blue dot to confirm it. So there we're breaking over the star with another star, but there's no blue dot. So I'm suspicious. And not surprisingly, oh, there's my blue dot. So, all right, so yeah, if you can imagine, if you got in here expecting to test this and you see this, I bet most of the time, and your stop is here, I bet most of the time you're going to assume I'm getting stopped here. And if you had an opportunity to get out, you probably would. At least that's usually, because I don't want to participate in this. I would rather, like, if I could get my 10 points here, great. But then if I got in again here, if I got my 10 points here, cool. But if I got in again here, I'm going to try to get out personally there, right? I'm going to take 5 points or whatever if I can and just wait for this to be done. Even though I think it's probably going to break out, I have another star bar to deal with now, so I need another blue dot. So I get the blue dot here and my entry's better. See, so now I can break through it because I got a blue dot. I didn't have one here, and that's why I would have exited. But now that I've got the blue dot, if the next bar breaks through this, it's all good. I forgot that it has to continue one more. So this one, even though it's a blue dot, it's not technically an entry. I just realized because the next bar would need to break through for it to be an entry, right? So it's the start of an entry. I made this mistake today. It's the start of an entry, but you don't necessarily take it on the blue dot. You have to wait to make sure that next bar does actually break out. It's only a setup if it breaks out with the blue dot being behind it. So I forgot. I can't just buy the blue dot there. Because this one's already been defended. So that's the entry for the defense. I don't take those a second time. So here, I've got blue dot with star. So on its own, that's a lot better. Plus I've got purple plus followed by blue dot. So that also makes it a little bit better. But really what I want is a breakout here. There, with the blue dot. That's what I want. That's my preferred trade. I think we did go over this already. Unless this is just the exact same concept. Yep, so now you get broken through. I think we did go through this already. So, where did we get to? I don't remember where we were. But that's where we were before. I started talking about the this other setup. So, let's see. Star. We get blue dot. Oops. We get blue dot, but it doesn't break out with the bullish bar here. See that? So technically that's no entry. There's nothing to do there. If it would have been a pink bar, you can buy it. But it wasn't. It didn't break out. So we wait. We wait. Now that's purple bar star at the defense of an orb. So if you thought it was bearish and you break through that, you're good. So if you get another bearish bar and it breaks through that like a purple bar, it's probably bearish. Instead, they turn it around. They give you another dot. Can I buy it yet? Not really. I need this to be purple for it to think that this is defense of this dot. So instead, I'd wait for a pink bar. There it is. That's the entry. Yep. So I would have caught this one and this one. Right? Which is pretty sweet. So the other one I haven't seen set up yet is a star that's immediately followed by an X in the opposite direction with a dot, or in general, an X with a dot when it's clearly bullish. What I mean by clearly bullish is you're breaking highs, and the zigzag is bigger on the green numbers than the white numbers. Then those are actually pretty good, especially when they're followed by pink. Other times, pink bars that aren't breaking out of anything are usually not a good place to enter. But the two exceptions for the pink bars are when they have a triangle, or you can't see it here, but if it had a triangle, or if it's following an X, I think it's three things, because then if it breaks out beyond another orb, that's actually pretty good too. It's preferable that has a triangle. In this case, I don't have my triangles turned on, so wouldn't be able to know. But okay, so we get the X pink bar extension. Now the hard part about that is that your risk is below that. So if you do think you're bullish here, which I do, you could buy it for a scalp, but you really wouldn't want to be. The only way you could stay long is if you're okay holding through a pullback all the way down here. What I would prefer to do is take 10 to 15 points, get out of the trade, and then wait for it to set up again, such as blue dot getting defended by purple bar followed by a bullish bar. Even better if it has a blue dot that's followed by a pink bar. So I'd be long when this one got defended, which was here. That would be my normal entry. The problem here is that I've got a star with a yellow dot that needs to get broken out. So if you wanted to wait for that to break out, you could, because otherwise it might act as resistance. There it is. Blue dot breaks out over it. That's usually long. But like I said, I probably would have taken this one, especially if I would have taken both of these 50-point trades or whatever, 40-point trades. Like I'm up 80 points. Yeah, I'm going to take the aggressive one. But then I could even add here. And that works pretty good. Then here, so now you got to be a little careful. So here's where it starts to get a little tricky. Now that you are, in my opinion, now that it's gotten super bullish and you've gotten more than, so here was the first dominant bull wave. So 57, 63.50 is bigger than 57.50. That's one. And then 57 is bigger than 18.75. Two. These are both bigger than one Buddha range, which is, I think it said 51.75 or something like that. Both of these extensions look like impulse moves, right? They're not just little rips. They're big rips in a row. So generally, you have to be really careful now trading big pullbacks, because a pullback is probably going to kill the trend. So instead, the only trade I can basically take now, once I've seen that second one, is the defense of the dots. So purple bar followed by a bull bar in the area of that bar with the dot. So this is an entry, and then pink bars with triangles. That one had a triangle. You just can't see it. Just to show you, I'm not just making shit up. Where is it? It is. Let's go back there. It's this. Pink bar with a white triangle is an entry. Right? And then if it pulls back again, pink bar with the triangle would be an entry as well. So that one will continue to work for me. But if I get an apex trap now where it pulls all the way back behind this, I don't want it. Right? Now, the problem, okay, so dot, right? Trade behind it, and you get another bullish bar. That's technically a buy. Plus dot and in the direction of the trend, right? And you didn't get the VPOC on the plus bar or a purple bar below this line. That makes, if it's purple, it doesn't matter. But if it's not purple, you don't want the VPOC, the yellow line, to get under it on the bearish bar. So here, by the time it got under it, it closed bullish. This one closed bullish, not bearish, so it's fine. If this one closes bearish and the next one's bullish, I don't take it, right? It's got to close bullish or close purple if the VPOC gets underneath this dot. And so same thing now applies for this one. Now we have a level to beat. Star right here to the opposite direction would need to get beat with another blue orb, right? For me to continue. Because now I've got a star down. That's an aggressive seller at the high. Like, I'm not going to ignore that. Notice this X did not get a dot. That's suspicious. Usually in an uptrend like this, the X's are aligned with the aggressive shift. And here it was not, right? They pulled back into this bar's range. They couldn't get VPOC underneath the low, and they gave us another blue dot. This time it has a star. Would I buy it? Probably not, but if the next bar is pink, I would. So I'd buy this as a breakout of this star. Now, technically, it didn't quite break out, but I would just wait and make sure it traded above this, I guess. But technically, this is it's pink bar, star followed by pink with a triangle up. And whoops, not that one. Where is it? Star, pink bar with a white triangle up. On Simon's, it's an orange triangle up, but on mine, it's white. I just like things consistent. I've got orange bars that are bearish, so I don't like orange on a bullish signal. So yeah, this would be a good entry because you're breaking over this star, or you're about to, with a pink bar triangle up, and you had a dot within one bar below, right? And if that one has a dot, even better. So we continue here. Yeah, so this is an okay entry. You get another pink bar, you get another star. Now this one's done, right? Because you've already beaten it. You've beaten it with a blue dot now again, but note this one is a star. So if they get under this, we can do it. And with a yellow dot and a purple bar, it's bearish. Yellow dot with a star. So this is now our pivot. If it goes above that with a pink bar and a blue dot, or below that, low with a yellow dot and a purple bar, then it's bearish. Below it, I'd prefer that to be purple. There we go. But we have yellow dot, the very next bar broke below the low of a star. Purple bar confirms it. It's definitely bearish now. Now, what I was saying is, since I've already gotten two dominant waves, I don't want to take the trap back in. So if it sets up right there, see how it got underneath this low? Oh, it didn't. This one's still technically okay. If it gets under that low, I'm no longer into it. This is technically a defense of the blue dot with a purple bar, bullish bar. Aggressive. I mean, it probably goes back to the high. Yeah, isn't that sneaky how they set it up short? But note, the short has not stopped out yet. Your short stop goes, the stop for the short goes above that bar by a point, and it never stopped out. So you have to decide, like, do I want to, remember, we identified this was the pivot, and they advertise below it with the purple bar and then immediately beat it. So what you would expect is they're going to come up here and sweep the stops and then roll over. So you'd either have to buy this and get out right there, or if you were short, you just have to stay short till you get stopped out. Or if you think it's bullish for some reason, you'd buy this and hold it. But normally I'm thinking bearish at this point because I've gotten two up waves that were impulse waves, and I've gotten underneath a white star. But it's only with a purple bar, so it could keep going. There's another yellow star, so now I need to get above that with a blue dot to be bullish. Oh, are they going to do it? Blue dot, another pink bar, and that's bullish. Right there, that's bullish. So I'll change whatever I thought. Whatever I thought back here has changed now. Because now we've gotten the star, we've gotten above it with a pink bar, and we had a blue dot. So we had an aggressive shift to the upside, and that's almost always a breakout. See that? If you didn't catch it, you had a pullback with the blue dot. It just goes on and on and on. So, I mean, all you really need is one of these. You don't have to take them all, right? And you have a pretty good day. I mean, that's how I made $500 today or whatever. But it's, so let's go to today, which is Tuesday, because that was Friday, and then it goes into Sunday night. Let me just erase everything. And we're just going to do the exact same process. We'll start when the market opens. Okay, exact same process. It's bearish. Here, we'll go back and do this one. I'll try to do it a little faster. So the first thing we'd look for is, if we were trying to see if this was going to reverse, is do we have any up stars that could get broken? Well, we have one right here, but they extended over it, right? Oops. Then we had some orbs over here, right? This one produced a blue orb above that. That's probably bullish. Blue orb, probably bullish, right? They're not stars, but they're orbs. It's the next best thing if you don't have stars. And we had no stars all the way down. And then you have orbs here, broken by this orb, probably bullish. Broken by this orb, probably bullish, right? So as long as that keeps happening, you're not going to short. Because all the spots where we aggressively tilted to the downside, we're now aggressively tilted to the upside, right? So where are all the stops? They were behind the apex. Note here, when you have the X without the dot, it often gets beat, right? It's like cannon fodder. But when you have an X with the dot, it usually goes higher. X with the dot usually goes higher, right? This X without the dot still went higher, which is unusual. But this dot was just a little early. See, but it's aligned. This early dot was not aligned at all with this X. This one is aligned. So it looks like it's not together, but it just took one little divot, but the location is right. And as you can see, they line up often. So we put in a really late aggressive orb up there, right? There was nobody to beat up here. It should have just been like easy pickings, unless there was someone from before. Oh, there might have been someone from before. It's the exact same problem. You have an orb that got stuck. See that? And they needed to use aggression to break out of that area. The yellow is a caution sign. If you get under the yellow, it's usually over for the time being. And in blue also, if you get over the blue, it's usually done going down. So like here. So once you get over this orb, it's usually done. So here's the blue. The last orb before that, if you can get over that, it's probably bullish. Not just with price, but with volume. So the yellow line needs to get above it on a bullish bar. It gets above it, bar closes bearish, it's probably bearish, right? Does that work on this rotation? No. Well, unless we're going higher. I don't think we do. I think it's just one rotation. But then we get yellow. So I think the way to think about it is if we get here's the bullish orb below it. Now I don't know if it's got the actually this didn't have an orb on the. It did have an orb on the blue. You would think yellow line gets above it here, that would create a push, but they got stuck here. So here, the very last yellow bar has a orb. So I would actually think this one might be the line in the sand. So you got a purple bar underneath it. Oh, then you put it a star anyway. So then you beat the star. Oh, sorry, I'm backwards. So star, bearish star, get under the yellow one with an orb, put in an orb. All you need is a bar that's not purple. Oh, purple bar. So now I probably want to pull back into that zone. Yep, pull back. Right there. Bearish bar that's not purple with the VPOC below these yellow bars. And I think it's okay because it's got a dot. I'm quite certain it's got to be all of them though. So like it would have to be this, which they didn't do. See, no VPOC above that. No VPOC above it, no VPOC above it on a bullish bar. But if you do have an orb behind it, you can probably use that. But here you got an orb, the orb is inside of the yellow bars, which is the inverse of the blue. So I think you just use the bottom of the yellow bar. There's no, well, I guess you could use this. Did they save it because of that one? Let me see. Nope. So yeah, the yellow bars are the way to go. At least for the time being. That could shift someday. Okay, so this is your entry, right? They defended the star and beat the yellow bars with the orb in it. Reject, that's your entry, right? So no stars over here to beat, just orbs. But note, once again, orbs line up, bearish. Orbs line up, pretty close, bearish. No orb on the bear side. What's going to happen? Probably a pullback, right? Blue bar. So if I can get above that with a VPOC, that's not pink, right there. That is bullish. Just on the rotation, not big picture. Where is it going? Well, it's probably got to come back to this star, or at least this orb. Comes back to this orb. Totally rejects. Well, that sucks. That, I mean, well, it doesn't suck. It's just bearish, right? That's a pretty bearish signal. If you got over the blue bar with VPOC, and they can't set that up at all, they can't lift it. Then that means they put all the volume up there and just gave up. So these guys just got trapped. The purple plus that's followed by a purple bar when it's really bearish is a really good continuation trade, particularly when it's breaking a blue dot like that. So like if you had, I don't know if we have it over here on the upside, it'd be plus followed by pink bar. No, it's not that, you don't get it that often. But as long as that continues lower, like this, next bar is bearish, this whole area is going to get defended. So if I got back to here, it's kind of a tangent, but it's another trade. If I got back to there, I'd expect them to defend it. We'll see if it happens. Okay, no stars to beat down here. We have one star to beat down here. Instead, we get above a blue bar with VPOC. That's usually bullish. We need it to set up to actually get long. And it doesn't. They just give it up again. They got to get above this and then set it up. Nope, they did come down here. They tested underneath the blue dot with the star, but no yellow orb. See that? So they reverse it. There we go. This orb is met by that orb. That's pretty bullish. See how these line up? This one, here. This zone, there was an aggressive pivot to the sell side, and now in that same zone, aggressive pivot to the upside. So where volume was getting more aggressively towards the bid, now it's more aggressively towards the offer. And there's other signals down here that can alert you to that early, but let's not worry about it. So that was the first sign that something might be changing. But there's no stars to beat whatsoever up here, so it's going to be hard to continue that, I bet. They get up to this trap, and it requires another pivot. Oh, there's no dot here. That's too bad. So you got a star. This has got to hold, otherwise it's bearish. So see how they're having trouble to get through this zone? But now we have another star. So if we can get over that with a blue dot and a pink bar, it's good. Blue dot, we just need a continuation. Right there. It's not pink, but I'd still be cool with it. If you want to wait for a pullback, maybe it might be better. But this is where you want to be long. Yeah, see, no pink bar and it doesn't work. So I would have bought this dip and gotten stopped out probably because X with the dot. Usually you want it to be followed by pink bar. Pink is better here, I guess. That's interesting. Where's the? Oh, the star is right there. You know what? It might not work. So no, it does. It's just got to be really bullish. I don't know if I would have bought the dip there. I thought this was the star. If this was the star down, then this usually works. But the star is right here, so it should be just X dot or orb with an X. That should just be bullish. But it ran into resistance, and then they printed a yellow one and just crushed it. Yeah. And that all has to do with these guys getting trapped. That was really bearish. It should have done this. That's what you'd expect. Is this becomes support now. And you get a pullback and it goes. Right? See how this aligns? So once you beat that blue dot, that blue bar, the bar that's outlined blue, they had to sweep one more time, but now that they've gotten over it, it's support. And now it's probably support still. Is there a star down here? There is, right there. So got under the star with a purple bar, yellow, purple. That's usually bearish. Right? And you do get one bar and then they bounce. Why? Because we ran into higher time frame structure right here. This is where all the sellers got trapped, just like all the buyers got trapped down here. So that's why this is bouncing here. It's because these guys are trapped. It's probably up to this line. Yeah, the dotted line here. And magic line is a good spot to get pullbacks to. But then they get stuck here at the bear spot. It's just going to chop. Okay, we finally get over this star with the blue dot. As long as they break it out. Right there. Blue dot, break out with a pink. That should continue higher. Oh, interesting. So since it was so late from the pivot, it only goes like one and then reverses. That's interesting. So this one's so late. Now, once it gets beat, it's done. 3 pinks in a row, created extension. If you get under that, it's bearish. Yeah, they hold it. So because it was so far from the apex, the dot was so far from the apex, they needed to refuel. And they refueled back where sellers used to be in control, but now buyers are in control once they beat this here. That breakout put buyers in control, and that pullback gets bought. Note this is the blue dot. Purple is the only thing that can get under the blue dot, followed by a bullish bar. That's a buy. So if you bought this, right, you'd put your stop way back here. It's a little bit iffy. If you put your stop here, you got stopped out, but then you get back in right here. Okay, star. Here, we'll redraw here. So 2 stars in a row, right? If either one of these get beat with the dot, the orb, it's going to go that direction. There's no orb anywhere, so it's just pink bar, purple bar, breakdown. That's tough. I assume this is going to get broken down. There's the orb, super late. Super late. Taking out this one. Interesting. So this one didn't even need an orb, and you got the orb to break down this one, even though it's not a star. Does that continue lower? Not that much. Yeah, I'm not surprised. These late ones don't work very well. Just like this one didn't work very long. It's got to retrace first. So let's see if this dotted line holds. Yep. The first time it did. Star X with the dot did not create an extension because you had resistance up there. But then they defended the blue with purple bar, bullish bar. And it's just getting stuck here. It's just going to chop. Yeah, see, this is where you really don't want to be participating. If like both directions aren't working, like zoom out. You can use a bigger time frame and you can see, oh, I see. This is where resistance is. That's where I want to be a seller. And oh, this is where support is. That's where I want to be a buyer. And so do they have a star there? No, but they probably rip through here. What do they do with that? Yellow dot, no purple bar on the breakdown, no yellow dot on the breakdown. There we go, yellow dot on the breakdown. I think that would keep going, but this wasn't a star. So they just totally fuck you, which is why you use a stop. So that one just absolutely failed. It's probably a higher time frame level. on like I think ES had a higher time frame level there, or maybe we did from a previous day. One way or another, there's a reason why it bounced, but when it happens, you just gotta you can't be short. If you get this set up to work at the lows, the dot with an X reverse going that direction, like if this bar creates a lift, you don't want to fight it. Okay, there's the X or the star. So now you got to get over that with a blue dot. Oh wow, they printed another one. So that's pretty bearish because they defended this bar. So now bulls have to get above both of them. Hard to be bullish now. They might try to defend it. Yeah, they try to defend this one more time. I'm not surprised. And then it fails with this should go lower. Wow, they're just not. They're absorbing big time. So another star. So now you'd have to get out. You have to start all over again. That's your support. Choppy as fuck. There. So see how late that dot was? We'd expect that dot to show up either at the apex or else when they break over this. Oh, I guess it was one before it. But all these pink bars in a row makes me nervous. I'm probably not buying that. Oh, I guess it was a good time to buy. It technically was valid. You got a big pullback, blue, and then break out with the pink over the star. I just didn't like it because you had another star right behind it, and this seemed really far away. I thought you were going to get a pullback. Wow, so you get another dot to break through this one. That's got to be bullish. Does it hold? Does this one get defended? Yes. So that is probably where I would like. I think I actually took that trade. That's today, right? I actually took this trade. That's the spot you want to be getting in. You've got all these pink bars getting defended, and the blue dot. The only thing they can get under it was a purple bar. And as soon as they tried to put volume, they got a star. That's pretty strong. And notice you don't have any stars here to contend with. The last star has already been beat and broken out of. So that one's done. So now it should just be home free. Yeah, that's where I made my 500 bucks. Could have made more, but that was it. That was the main trade that got me. I took some stops. That's why it wasn't more than that. I had taken at least one stop before that on the other account. So it got me back to even on the one account, and then got me something. Okay, so then on the second account. So this purple bar, pink bar creates a pivot. And that pivot was stabilized here. But there's no dot, so I didn't take that trade. But that's kind of cool. Did it have a... Let me check the smaller time frame. Did that set up on a smaller time frame? Yes, it defended on the smaller time frame. Defended with purple bar star. Cool. That's what I thought. That's what I figured. And then yeah, huge breakout from that. That's cool. So it's just it's this setup, but it's on the pullback because of this pivot standing in the way. That's cool. Okay, so X with the dot followed by pink is usually bullish. This should get defended, and it does. The next blue dot's usually good. That's another rip. This one did not have a dot. See that? Suspicious. This one is a star, as is this one. So this would have had to get a breakout with a blue dot, and it didn't happen. Now this one needed a breakout with a blue dot. It looks like it's not going to happen. Guess who knew it was time to start looking short? Now where do we look short? Well, we need some signal, right? An X without a dot, that's not enough for me. That is enough. An X with a dot. Especially coming after a star, because if this next bar is pink, huge breakdown. Purple, sorry, purple. And yeah, I'd expect this to make this really hard to break. And now the star got moved down to here. So now you could break out of that. See, it just, yeah, totally falls away. You get more potential resistances. You get the blue Oh, here, another reason why this broke out. Yellow, right? Defended, traded above, breakout. Right? So blue, traded below, you're going to get a breakdown if it's defended first. So if they break above this, it's bullish. If they come up and defend it and then reject, it's bearish. But usually they are going to retrace this.
Motion detected at the front.
Oh, hold on, guys. Hold on. I think I have a package. I'll be right back. Okay. Yeah. So that was the short. Let's just see, how do they defend this? So does it get back to you? That's what I'm wondering. Plus dot lower, but note this one actually trap back in, plus dot lower. So that trade works really well in when you're trading with the trend. But the easier way to think about this is dot gets defended by pink bar and a bear bar. That's the easier way. It doesn't have to have a plus. The pink bar makes it even better, right? The plus is something, but this is better. Bear bars, right? Where hyper extended, and then there's one way down here, and then do you get volume above it? Yes. So this one got volume above it. Now I think you need volume above this one to really confirm it though. But the fact that there's nothing here other than a dot, yeah. So they're able to continue. Okay, dot. And then dot going the opposite direction. So if this gets broken with a yellow dot or a pink or a purple bar, it's bearish. But these blue ones say it's hyperextended. So if you can get volume above this, it's probably bullish. Double pink is usually, like I said about double purple, if it continues higher, it's usually bullish, and that's usually the low there. So now I know that this is probably the low. I just want to pull back to buy. Oh, that's right. They didn't give it to us. I remember this trade. So we got volume over this line right there, and you could technically take the breakout. I prefer to take the next blue dot with an X, and then pink bar helps too. So you could take this one. You could take this one. Those are all totally reasonable trades, and you get a really nice extension. So you can already see even just with like 2 of these trades, you'd have a good day. Note they're doing yellow dot across from blue dot. It's a pretty clear sign that it's bullish. You can keep scalping here, adding to your trade. Now you've got a yellow bar, right? So if you get VPOC, the yellow line below this on a bear bar that's not purple, it's over. But they defend it with a blue dot. That's probably an entry. Yeah, that's cool. I actually hadn't thought about that, but I saw that earlier too. This blue followed by a yellow dot. Same thing as yellow followed by a blue dot in the same range. So when I wonder how often that happens. That's pretty cool. All right, yellow. There it is again. Yellow. I actually didn't know this one, but this makes sense. Yellow gets defended by a blue dot. It goes higher. Cool. Okay, now this one, I bet is going to act like a star if we get under it with purple. If we would add a yellow dot here, I'd expect that to be a breakdown. But there's no yellow dots. They have to retrace until they get one. Right there, yellow dot. So now if the very next bar is purple, I bet you it breaks down here. Purple plus, interesting. Purple, yeah, it's not ready. So see, this was too late. It didn't break down underneath this. And you can see that it's really not bearish unless they retake this. They try. They put in a star right below it. Now they have to take that to be bearish. They get above this on blue, pink. It's bullish. Dude, that's cool. Even though it's right into resistance, it still works. This is today. I must have been doing yesterday. Because this is like 3 in the morning. Whoops. Okay.
no blue here, but they're defending it by blue. I've got arrow followed by blue, but the arrow's on a down bar. It's interesting. Yeah, that's kind of rare. Okay. What that's usually saying is on a down bar, it's and for the blue bar, a blue arrow on a down bar means if we get under that, it's probably going to go lower. Oh, and here we go. Yeah. So once you break under these blue arrows on the down bars, it's done. So if it did set up here, you probably don't take it. Was there anything else? Like there's just no signals here. It's interesting. Okay, we get underneath all these, but it's already blue. That's interesting too, which means hyperextend to the downside. But you'd have to get all the way up here to beat all those. So nothing you can do about that. Wow, that had to be like econ or something. Interesting. Okay, right before the open. Yeah, I think it was econ. Okay, we come back up. See how we got over this, but only with pink. So it's not bullish yet. They beat this blue dot right here, and then it was blue dot again. So it's probably bearish. Yeah. See, once you get underneath a blue, right, you need to print the blue to have any chance, but now you'd have to reclaim this, and they can't do it. So it's bearish. Okay. This dot is way late, and you immediately get a blue dot underneath it, and you had blue here. So if you can get bulls, get volume above that, then dips can probably be bought. Well, there it is, but it's got a blue dot. If they beat it, I assume it's bearish again. Ah, they save it. That's your entry. Nice. Cool. That does work really nice. Okay, I got to remember that. All right, so then I didn't trade that early in the. That's pretty cool. Okay, so this is usually bearish, right? The X or star or star followed by purple bar is usually bearish. But when they don't continue it and break above that with a blue bar, blue dot, and a pink bar, it's usually bullish. They didn't break it. They didn't close above it. So it was just a fake out. That's the stars. This got defended, the blue dot. They couldn't put a VPOC below on a bearish bar that wasn't purple. And then the next bar is bullish. So this is probably going to go higher. Maybe up to here. Oh, wow, sneaky. Look at that. This is technically a long too. Star, pink bar with a blue that has the X. I'd probably take that long. It's the open, so this is kind of... Oh, this is 9 o'clock econ. Never mind. I'm not going to fuck with that. That goes till... This is still 2 minutes. All this happened in 2 minutes. Totally untradeable. See, they tried to defend this blue dot and failed. See that? They failed to do it. So let me just see. Where is the volume up till that point? Yeah, it's way too high. So you don't want to be buying down here when all the volume they put in is above you. And you have a... You'd have to break above this with a pink bar and a blue dot to really feel confident. And note, you can get the blue dot, but you can't get the pink bar above any stars. So it's just not bullish. And then the bears, all they needed to do is get below bullish stars. So that would have been here. Yellow with the purple right there. But it's during econ, so they fucked with you. But this is technically your stop is up here. And that never gets hit. See that? So if you got in and you wanted to take a stop here, which I wouldn't blame anybody for doing, if you could physically do it, you couldn't because it happened within 1/10 of a second. But even if this was slow, you could re-enter as soon as you get this. Yellow, purple, right there. That would be your re-entry because you're breaking under this one. Oh, and then this one gets broken under by a dot. Yep. So that's bearish. If you're fast. Okay, all this is hyperextended, but they can't take it back. Very bearish. Hyperextended, pink bar, they can't take it back. Bearish. There, they got over it. So see how this one, they got over it with a bullish bar with bullish volume, right? So now pullbacks can probably be bought. The problem is you've got resistance up here. So, do it carefully. If this gets broken with a yellow dot and a purple bar, it's bearish. Otherwise, I'm assuming that dips are going to be bought, but I'm not going to buy unless I have a signal. So that's awesome. So they come right into it. They can't break it, and you get the pink bar with the dot. That's a great buy. And then you can add on that second one. This should break out. Dude, that is fucking cool. That worked 3 times this morning. Okay, I'm going to have to review that because that trade is going to be like number 1 or 2 for me. Okay, so here we come right back into this resistance. Not surprisingly, find a seller. Note here we once again have the yellow bar. So let's see if it works again. Yellow bar, get volume below it, right? And then a pullback that gets rejected should get continuation, particularly if it's got double, in this case, double purple, or a purple bar that breaks beyond this line. So dot X, this is close, but we didn't get a purple bar. So I would have liked that to be purple, but it probably still works. Let's see. Does it need one more try? Purple bar right there. Is that it? Oh, I don't know. Does that count? It touched it. Yep. Dude! It worked twice in like 30 minutes. Oh, jeez. Okay, here it is again. Blue. Got to get over that. That's not going to happen. Blue. Have to get over it. Have to get over it with volume. Right there. Over it with volume. Okay. That's very tight. But technically, a pullback that produces a blue dot and a purple pink bar should be bought. It might just not pull back. Yeah, because it's so tight. You can probably just buy the plus. That's nuts. But then, look, they're going to take this, I bet. They're going to take this out. Let's see if they hold the low. Oh, they don't take it out. That makes sense. They defend this with purple bar star. That's the entry. Wow. Okay. God. How did I... Ugh. I always figure this stuff out just a little bit too late. It worked beautifully today. That aspect of it I did not have down. I knew about the stars. I did not know about the blue and the yellow until just now. That's why I do these. Okay, here's the defense. This, if you didn't get that, you can get right here. Purple bar, blue dot, defending a blue dot in bull trend. Okay, we got under this one, but couldn't get under it with volume. Instead, we get a purple bar defense. No blue dot. I don't love taking this one. Let's see what this does. Yeah. Purple bar star. That's definitely better. Yeah, no blue dot. Don't do it. Okay, cool. Good to know. Pink bar, yellow dot. There's the breakdown of the star. Star, yellow dot, purple bar. Oh, it didn't break it down, so we wait. That's right. Star, got to do it again. I took a stop there. I need to remember that. You have to actually physically break it with the purple bar or the yellow dot bar. No yellow dot now and no purple bar. What happens now? Oh, you bastards. Didn't trigger on this time frame. Did they trigger it on the other time frame? No. Nope. That blows goats. That's too bad. Oh, wait. On the other time frame, I think it did. Oh, not till way down here. Nothing here. Dot, something purple. Oh, I see. Dot broke it down. So that's the entry. And then the next bar was purple. And now it didn't touch it. It did set up on the 15 tick. Okay, that's fine. That's what I've seen before. I've seen that before. That's cool. Oh, hold on real quick. I didn't realize my phone was going off. Okay. Gotta wrap this up here. Got family matters to tend to, but this has been useful. Okay, hopefully, at least for me. Break under that with dot and yellow dot and purple bar, yellow dot, purple bar. See how it doesn't quite break down? It misses it by like a tick. I think this reverses. Cool. Okay, and plus you got volume above this blue outline bar right there. So the pullback with a blue dot should be bought. So rather than being a sell, that's a buy. Ooh, that one stopped. That one stopped out. Once again, they don't get it though, so now it probably bounces. Okay, so it obviously doesn't work 100% of the time. When it's super bearish, it's going to be hard. But see, this didn't set up. There's no blue dot down here. So it's not like it got you twice, but it would have gotten you once if I said that this was the signal and this was the trigger. The problem is you had a star right here. You had resistance, so maybe don't do it with resistance right above you. That makes sense. That's not hard. Okay, so then oh, here, look at that. Break underneath, come back, hit yellow dot, go short, right? Oh, bastards. Fucked it up. I don't know what happened here, but that did not work. Look at that. Just gets into mad chop. So something definitely got bullish here, because that's weird. That was working all day, and then suddenly it doesn't work for a minute. Is this the close? This is the close. So we were talking about this. What happened here? We got under that. We got the dot. We got the... That should be a breakdown. It doesn't break down, so that's probably pretty bullish. So now, on the bear side, there's no stars anywhere, but there is this one here. So that gets blue dot, pink, and no breakout. So mean, because there's no star. So no breakout on that side either. It didn't run into any other... Oh, did it run into this? It ran into that star. But they did get volume above it. Sneaky. Very tricky. Very tricky. Now let me guess this one gets defended. No blue dot. I don't think I'd take it. It works. Very choppy. Very choppy. Wow. That's tough. That was a weird low. I didn't trade it either. It was too much resistance. But it does make sense. It does make sense. We got above these guys right here. So you don't really know what's going on until there, and then you know, okay, stop shorting. But the hard part is they put in this star. Yeah, so once they put in that star, you know it's bullish as long as you don't get under it. But they've got all these other stars to beat. And this one gets beat, but not with a dot. And then this one gets beat without a dot also. I wonder if this was easier on the smaller time frame. Let's just see. So right here, on the smaller time frame, did this make more sense? Let me hide the other draw. Oh, that's right. We were sitting at that naked volume control point of control. That's why they're chopping here. So it's just not a good place to trade in general. But let's see. Star down, dot, purple bar, can't break underneath it, buy when they reverse. That's a buy. That works over and over again. When that one trade fails, the other direction is perfect. No breakdown because no purple. No star down. Nothing to do. They trap underneath this, but only a purple bar. Oh, but then they put this one here. So yeah, that's yeah. I was like, that's not bullish. Okay, breakdown under this with a purple bar and it's good. No purple bar, it's probably bullish. Oh wow. Not yet. Okay, there's definitely not easier going the other direction. There, they broke under. Oops, they did finally make it work. This one got broken under. This one got broken under with a dot and a purple bar. Nope, no purple bar. Yeah, no purple bar, so rip. Okay, definitely harder on the smaller time frame. This one, does this one get taken out? Purple bar, that should be bearish. Yeah, okay, cool. So that works. Bearish. Okay, star. Bullish as long as that holds. But there's no entry. Yep. And no entry, so it reverses. No down stars to trap. They got underneath the star. They trap back in. That's the first sign of like a head and shoulders kind of thing. Yep, that's exactly what they're doing. Very sneaky. Very sneaky. and then they go dot, and then pink bar, and they rip. Oh god, did they take this back? Nope, they defend it. So that's your other entry. But double pink bars are usually a sign of bullishness as long as they can trade over them and hold on the pullback. So this needs to hold now. Ha! They destroy it. It's harder on the small time frame, that's for sure. Okay, so here's your next opportunity for a breakout. You need a dot. You don't get it. Dot. You don't get the pink bar. There it is. Delayed. That's your long. Okay. Okay. So into the close they had a long, but then I think they ran into resistance. Maybe not. Maybe not. But that's what I'm doing, and it seems to work pretty well. That's honestly all I've needed to stay consistent is just those couple bars. You could obviously trade with other ones too, but that seems to do it for me. I still take the supernova traps and all that, but these for like momentum trades, these are working really well. So I'm doing that for now. But I will sign off here since it's almost been 3 hours. I gotta head out, and I will see you guys all next time. Let me know if this is helpful, and you can contact me right here at Red Band Trader.